Welcome to The Infinite Life with Katische Haberfield. I'd like to take you on a transformative journey, exploring the mysteries of the soul. I hope you enjoy the regression case studies, mediumship interviews, and fascinating discussions that I've had with guests on the podcast. I hope that these answer some of the questions that you might have about life on this planet, on others, and in other dimensions. Thank you for joining me, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. And, most importantly, share with your friends. Namaste.
Welcome back to the Infinite Life with Katische Haberfield podcast. I'm your host, Katische Haberfield. We're in season 13. This week we have CT Kaupp. He is a multi-business solopreneur, beach lover, and golden retriever enthusiast, dedicated to helping individuals and businesses align their work with their soul's purpose. He started his first business, CT LLC, in 2017, offering web design and support services, and expanded his mission in 2024 with the Mindful SPX, guiding others towards balance between meaningful work and fulfilling life. Known for his genuine and intentional approach, he empowers entrepreneurs, creatives, and professionals to build purposeful careers through his digital content, coaching, and speaking engagements. CT's life mission is simple: to rid the world of the Sunday Scaries for good. So welcome to the podcast, CT.
Thank you very much for having me.
So it's Sunday here in Australia. I know you're in Saturday night. So Sunday Scaries is a rather optimal topic to talk about. I started off in mainstream industries. I started off working for Accenture, who back then was called Anderson Consulting. And like the rest of us, we had to get up on a Monday morning, go to work long weeks, work hard, play hard. But you do develop the Sunday Scaries, that dread, the, oh my God, I have to do it again. I need to earn money for the week. I did all this training in this profession. I'm good at it, but is it what I'm here for? Is it my life purpose? And I don't have time because I had to do the washing, I had to go do the grocery shopping, I had to take the dog for a walk. I wanted to go to the beach, didn't quite get there, so I'm not as relaxed as I think I am. Did I get anything out for tomorrow morning's breakfast? Tomorrow morning's lunch? Oh, I have kids. Who's got what? What does it say on the timetable on the fridge? And then we don't sleep well. So that's my interpretation of the topic.
I was going to say you explained that quite well. Yeah. It's the dread, anxiety, and worry, and just the uneasy. I think that would be the right word, the uneasiness as you're going from Sunday to Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too that it's funny because it's a Sunday scary, so you think you need to fix Sunday, but actually it's more, I think, fixing the week that then leads into your Sunday, that then leads into your Monday. Is the better approach in getting to that root cause.
Yeah, because we can be as organized as we like on a Sunday, but if you don't like what you're doing on Monday, then that flows over to the rest of the week, and we get it's Wednesday, it's hump day, and Friday, finally Friday. And I turned on the radio on Friday. I usually listen to podcasts and audiobooks when I drive, but I turned onto the radio because I had left my phone at home. And they were celebrating the fact that it was Friday and finally Friday. And I'm like, we're reinforcing this culture of thank God it's Friday.
Yeah. And so like where it came to me, like how this came to me, why I feel so called to this is that I had an experience where I was supposed to meet with some friends on the beach, actually, like you just did mention, play volleyball on a Sunday. And they reached back out and said, oh, hey, you know what? We can't. So-and-so's friend has the Sunday Scaries. And I just like vividly remember I had my phone in my hand and I was standing right beside my couch and I just let it drop. And I was like, wait a second, there's something deeper here, because if we are fulfilled and find meaning and purpose in our work, because we work so much of our lives, we can find fulfillment and purpose and meaning within that. It doesn't need to be the holy grail, but everything. It doesn't have to be our identity, but if we can find the fulfillment, meaning and purpose, then the idea of Sunday Scaries does not even exist. It's not even in our thought process. And that was the impetus. The society has just normalized it and has continued to perpetuate the cycle.
What I want to know about that friend, so you were going to go to the beach and that person had the Sunday Scare, the friend had a Sunday Scaries. It was so bad that their friends knew that every Sunday he gets Sunday Scaries and they had to go help him. What was the situation?
I took it, so I don't know them super well.
Yeah.
They're just friends of a friend. But the way that I took it was, yeah, it was like it was too much. It was like too overwhelming that we
Yeah.
can't do anything because they have to take care of that. It's normalized so that it is okay, but we just normalize it, but we don't actually work through it. So saying that you have the Sunday scares or anything that you want to give a label to, it doesn't really do much then feel like it's accepting in and of yourself because oh this person says that they have it and that person's society and then we're reinforcing like you said with the radio and like all of the things that we're consuming in everyday life is just reinforcing it. So it's just like this idea of I have it or there's like putting the label on it without actually doing the work to get through it and figure out the root cause to find that fulfillment and meaning in their life.
Mm. So you said it was like a light bulb moment for you in terms of this is what I want to help people with. How did you go from it was a light bulb moment on that beach, couldn't meet up with my friends, they've got Sunday Scaries, to it's my life mission?
So over the last 6 months or so, I've had many iterations of the Mindful Solopreneur or XPX for short. This was just one of those and just kept iterating on it, kept iterating on it. And I'm very in tune with energy and intuition, just what feels right. And so there was something about that experience that was like, it was a deeper experience, it was a deeper sign to me to dive into that with more vigor. And then because I just feel like I've seen it so much from a 30,000 foot view from society, wherever we live, whatever kind of job or career that we have. It's agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're a solo business owner or you work for a big company. It's like really has nothing to do with the type of work. It's more about internally, like how you feel about that. And you may work 8 to 5 and you love that because of X, Y, Z, or you may run your own business and enjoy that because of A, B, and C. But the Sunday scares could still be present depending on kind of the equation behind the scenes, so to speak.
That's a good distinction because I had just assumed, it's a vague, gross generalization that if you're self-employed, you must love what you're doing and therefore you don't get the Sunday Scaries. But what you're saying to me is no, Sunday Scaries still apply to business owners and solopreneurs. And I'm supposing, you've had the Sunday Scaries yourself?
I would say not very often.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it does happen, when it has happened, it's like a light bulb moment. So there's basically two times that I feel that I've experienced it, and it was one when I was working in corporate, and it was I don't want to go to work tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that was the sign to me of, oh, why am I feeling that? What does that mean? Why do I feel that way? And it was because I was freelancing on the side and I was loving the 6 to midnight more than the 8 to 5. And so that told me that I need to pursue that at a
Mm-hmm.
much deeper level. And then secondarily, it happened while I was at the movies on a Sunday afternoon and I got out of the movies and I'm like, I don't really want to do the web stuff tomorrow. I don't want to work on that business. And so then that was the sign to me of I need to make this coaching thing, take that to the next level. So it's more like an internal sign to me that something is out of alignment with whatever I'm doing, whether that was working in corporate or like we were just saying, doing the solo thing. It didn't matter and allowed me to take a step back and reevaluate.
Mm. The thing is, CT, some people might say, I don't like or I don't want to go to work for years, decades. How have you identified how you can help people who might have that thought and might have that dread feeling realize that now it's time to act on it? Some people just think that's so part of natural life that they wouldn't even stop to identify that as an intuitive hit or a sign. How do
Mhm.
you help people understand that you're having that feeling for a reason?
Yeah, I think there's so many layers to it. I think there's more layers to it when they have that kind of mindset that may have been there for several years, but it's really working through those layers to figure out where the root cause is. Because you can come to me and say that you hate your job or you hate your boss or employee, coworkers or whatever. You can come to me with all this work related, let's just call it drama or negativity, but then working together 2 weeks from then, we realized that actually it's the disconnection that you feel with your spouse that then is feeding into that work. And so there is that holistic wheel, I like to think of it as. It's identifying the root cause, because what you think the root cause is may not actually be what is causing those feelings.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing, because we do have multiple things that are reasons for the way we feel, but they're layered, and you have to drill down, right, to get to that root cause, because some of those things could be excuses, rationalizations. They could be, my wife says I can't, when she's probably thinking, geez, I wish he'd change his job. It's all these perceptions. Or it might be, my kid is going to this school next year and I want to be seen as a lawyer or a banker or a accountant. I can't go and be this that I really want to be until they've finished school. So I'm guessing that's what you mean in terms of that.
Yeah, there's so many labels that we all put on everything. And so a saying that I heard a while back was you limit what you label.
Mm,
And that really, really stuck with me, because it's so much of what you just said. Oh, my kid is going through school, so I can't do anything until he graduates. Or I have to do this because it looks a certain way to my family, friends, neighbors, whatever. And we can go on and on till the sun comes up, or for you, the sun comes, it goes down. But figuring that out, because there's too much, I guess, just noise. There's just too much noise. It's too much. We're consuming stuff 24/7, 365. And so we have all this noise that we can't just sit still for 5 minutes.
mm, mm. And so once you have identified it, do you have any tips for people who are thinking, well, sure, I get that, but how would I work through it? Because you and I, we work with people and we help people, but there's that big gap, this jump between when a client is ready to come work with you and when they sit with their own thoughts at home and they're like, should I, shouldn't I? Oh, I should be able to do this myself. I'm a smart person. I can work through this through myself. I can rationalize it. It's not that important. It's not a priority. I've got this other bill to pay or whatever. Have you got any ideas of how people can work through that, just this initial fear and anxiety that they have that this isn't big enough for me to seek help?
Yeah, that's a great point. I would say to make a list, just very
Mm-hmm.
simply. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on a sheet of paper. Doesn't really matter how you want to do it, but whatever you're feeling right now, throughout, this isn't really a Sunday thing. This is just like throughout the week when you're feeling that negativity or that misalignment, write down, like actually document that so that you can look back in 3 days, 3 weeks, whatever it is, and do you still feel that? And then if you do, then you're like, okay, like there's something obviously deeper there that
Mm,
it continually keeps coming up. Or it could be the opposite. And you, hey, you know what? I felt that way for a couple of days and then it went away, disappeared, whatever. But I think because it's similar to a fitness journey, I talk about just journaling is really important, but this kind of has the same idea to it is when you're starting out on a fitness journey, you may not see the changes on the scale or body composition that you want, but that doesn't mean that changes aren't taking place. A couple weeks or months into it, you start taking progress pictures. You don't feel like you're seeing anything. You're not seeing anything like tangible. But once you start taking progress pictures, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at where I am now versus where I was. And without that, you would think that the workout isn't working.
mm,
So very similar to that is writing down just so you have that documented. It doesn't need to be long. You don't need to journal for hours on end, but just to get those thoughts and ideas around what's really bothering you, work or personal, it doesn't necessarily matter, but it's really just like getting in tune with yourself and that energy that's off. So you can reflect back on that, because if you don't, you'll just have no idea. You won't
mm,
remember. We all have the monkey minds that, I guarantee try this. Go in the shower and be like, hey, okay, when I get out, I need to remember A, B, and C. When you get out of the shower, I guarantee you're going to forget two of three of those, if not all three of them, because like our minds aren't wired that way. And so it's just important to get it down, documented.
yeah. Yeah, I know some people will write on their mirror with a lipstick or an eyeliner or a whiteboard pen the things that they were thinking in the shower because they haven't got paper nearby, but they're like, right, I'm going to write this on my mirror or whatever just so I don't forget it. And I have a little sign printout. No, it's not a printout. It's done in my scribbly handwriting that I ripped out a piece of paper, stuck on a blue tack next to my mirror, which says, overthinking doesn't allow your intuition to shine through. Often I'll be standing there thinking, and they're like, look at the picture, look at that piece of paper, Katish. Stop thinking. My brain goes a million miles an hour. But yeah, simple things like that, I guess, could help too with that.
Yeah, we can go on and on about that. Like very similarly, I have recently put a saying on my phone as my alarm. And it's just again that like simple awareness to remember that, to go into the day with that phrase in mind. And that's something I've done more recently, but very similar to just having a little post-it or something that reminds you of it. But it's so simple, you don't even think about it, but yet it can have such a big impact.
The reason why I brought those examples up, and might have to move. So for those who are going to watch this eventually on YouTube, I'll show you something. Here's my stack of beautiful journals that I keep getting gifted that are empty because I'm one of these people that just can't seem to pick up the pen and write their thoughts through. I'm like, oh, but it needs to be something profound and beautiful, and it must change the world. And I can't bother this journal until that thought matches the beauty of the journal. What tips do you have for people like me that get overwhelmed by blank spaces and where to start with their thoughts that like the world you've read, listened to, and seen on TV shows, programs, books that says all famous, all interesting, successful and non-successful people journal. But there are still people like me out there in the world that go, I need the right pen, and I don't want to use that journal now because it's too pretty.
Yeah, you need the right pen and you need the right color journal and the right
the right
feeling
highlighter.
the paper, and
Yeah.
everything has to be perfect. I would say actually quite simply is that do what works for you and forget the rest. So I feel as a society, we're just consuming so much information. And so I'm big into cold plunges, but you may think that's the dumbest thing in the world. And I can find some doctor or scientific paper that tells you all these amazing benefits about cold plunges. I'm sure that you can find another one that says, oh, there's really not that much benefit to it. And so we can find whatever we want to find to prove our thought, whatever we like or don't like. And so to me, it's not as much of, hey, you have to do this. It's more of just do what works for you and forget the rest. And if waking up and playing music that gets you excited for the day works for you, then do that. Or if journaling helps you unwind or to get more intentional with your thoughts or be more in tune with your thoughts, then do it. Or maybe it's not journaling in the sense that you're talking about, but maybe it's I'm going to open up an email draft and just jot something in there at the end of each day before I leave to go home for work. You could do it like it's just trying to find, I guess, a different way to do it. But again, like if it doesn't work, then just don't do it, because it's more to me about sustainability and continuity. And if you don't like it, then you're just going to resist it. And so, like, to go back to cold plunges, you can get all the amazing, you can read about all the amazing benefits, but if your mind's already made up that you hate it or you're not going to like it, well, then I guarantee you're not going to stick with it most likely. And so, just a thought there.
Yeah, and I know you mightn't think it's related, but I do find it interesting. So cold plunges, have you found that? So I read Wim Hof's books. I've watched Tony Robbins do all these cold plunges. I have myself tried to do cold showers. And there is that feeling when I've never done a proper cold plunge where you go into cold water and it just literally takes your breath away. Why did you get into cold plunges? Does that help you with overthinking or the Sunday Scaries? Or, for example, I think it could be an example of a tool that does help people, for example.
I would tell you that it is cold plunges in the sense of what you described of like you're getting in the tub of very cold water. To me, like you can do the cold shower thing, but there was something about I was at a retreat and that's where I first did it. And there was something about doing that, like with other people, having that camaraderie. But there was something different about that experience than just, hey, I'm going to turn my shower in cold water. I guess it's the same thing, but for some reason, for me, it was different. And what I tell people is that cold plunging is the best example of mindfulness because I literally sat in the cold plunge a particular direction so that I would look out towards the mountains. That was going to be my sight line. And I'm like, it's going to be cold as heck. I don't care. I'm just going to look at these beautiful mountains for 3 minutes and we're good. I don't remember looking at the mountains ever the entire time. It's
Right.
like the only thing that mattered was controlling the breath so
Yep.
that I survived. And it
Yep.
was way more intense. We had done the day prior, we had jumped into a pool that wasn't heated. And the goal was, hey, we're going to go in there like 5 to 10 minutes. We're doing it as a group. So again, you kind of have that camaraderie aspect. And we all kind of felt like, wow, this isn't that bad. Like cold plunge it'll be fine. The next day we do the actual cold plunge and it's water out of a hose in a tub and a bunch of ice in there. So I don't know how cold it was, but it's decently much colder than the pool was. And so it definitely was like a shock to the system. What I tell people though is that the energetic, heightened sense of energy that I felt afterwards, like my creative juices were through the roof. And it was a digital detox retreat. So we don't have any of our devices. I can't work because we don't have that available. But that is like the everlasting feeling was just this insane increase of just energy and creative juices and wanting to just crush a deep work block because I was just like so amped up.
Yeah.
I don't drink caffeine, so maybe that's what people feel like when they drink caffeine, but it was something like I had never experienced.
Okay. And you said this was at a retreat, and then do you do that in your daily life now? Do you have your own cold plunge pool?
I do not. If we can speak this into existence, what I would like is the contrast therapy. So I would love to either find somewhere or be able to build it to have like cold plunge and hot tub next to each
Mm,
other.
mm,
There's like a lot of benefits with the contrast. And I've seen some places around the US that offer that. I've seeing more cold plunge and sauna than
mm.
like cold plunge hot tub. But I have seen a few of those that definitely piqued my interest.
I'm a big fan of Jonna Dinton, who's a YouTuber, and Cecilia Blomdahl and Eric Daniel, and they all live in Sweden, Norway, and Svalbard. And so my favorite things to watch them is when they do the crazy cut a hot round hole in the ice. They go into the sauna that's on the edge of the lake, and then they run out nude and they jump into that ice. And it's part of their culture. It's part of they've grown up with it. It's a ritual, and they do it. And they describe that they feel so much better, and they're open about how anxious they feel in their daily life. And they're all self-employed. They're YouTubers. They document their entire life for us to feel more relaxed. Yet in the process, they feel more stressed because they've been psychoanalyzing. Is this video good enough? Is it high enough resolution? Did I make them feel relaxed? Did I contribute? Whatever. But they go back to nature to cold plunge after a hot sauna, and it's as though the anxiety of that moment has just gone away because they are literally exactly what you said, just focusing in on the breath just to survive. But afterwards, they're like, yeah, that was great. Let's do it next week. Yeah, I'd love to live it in one of those cold countries just to do that, or you go there. I mean,
It's
it's
like
quite,
a reset. It's like a
yeah.
reset, but like physically because of obviously the contrast of that. So it's like I guess it's a physical and let's call it mind, body, soul reset
Mhm.
versus just meditation or something.
So there's another thought. I know it's getting quite popular in Australia, really quite popular. Another side anecdote, when I was little, like talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of years old, we used to have a sauna and a spa. And I actually did hypnotherapy, timeline management session with a friend recently. And I remember going back to the moment in time where my dad was teaching me how to not run out of the sauna into the spa, because he was obviously trying to teach me safety. But then my inner child was just giggling wildly because it was just such a fun thing to have back then, that heat and then the relatively cooler, but then the cold air between it. And it's interesting how your soul does try to remind you of these little moments and says, hello, do you remember this? Remember how good you felt? Remember how you laughed? And I have a friend who has a magnesium pool, and every time I go there, she has got a sauna. And if you jump into the cold magnesium pill, I scream. It's like this little girl just suddenly just lets out this big scream, but it's like also hilarious, and you're cold, but you do feel better. That's something to look into for the listeners and watchers is, do you have a wellness center nearby you? Can you afford to buy one of those things in the future that can, or can you have a cold bath or a really cold shower just to start the theory out so that you can tap into this creativity? And that might be that first thing that unlocks some space for you in your brain so that then you can say, yeah, this is something that I want to pursue. I want to go down further. I want to talk with somebody about my Sunday anxiety, Sunday scaries, but at least I know I can help myself in that process through the insights that I've gained today by listening to this. So what else would you like to talk about in relation to the processes that you go through, or what you want people to know about the Sunday scaries and different reflections that you have?
I will go back to an idea that you just mentioned, and then it goes back to earlier in the conversation, is, to think about not just what is off right now, what feels misaligned in your current moment, but think about what you enjoyed when you were a kid. I'll tell you a story. Like, I vividly remember getting for Christmas when, I don't know, I was 5, 8, 10 years old. I do not remember the particular age, but when I was young, and it was a book of all different dog breeds. And I don't remember like why my parents got me that. Like, I always liked dogs, but we didn't have one. My dad was allergic. And I just remember enjoying looking through that. And like, I've always enjoyed dogs. And then we were able to get one years later that didn't shed, and it worked out. And everything was great. But over the last 6 months to a year, I've been feeling this like deeper energetic pull to dogs. And I just find that fascinating, because it's not like it's out of the blue, like it's always been there. So it's sort of, to your listeners, like, think about things that you enjoyed when you were a kid. It may or may not have anything to do with your work or your professional life, but it can open other doors or experiences that you could go down. And because you get to do, you realize something that, hey, I really enjoyed doing that, and now you make room for that in your weekend. Now you feel way better when you go to work, because there's a little bit more purpose there. You're feeling a little more meaning, a little more fulfillment throughout your weekend. Like, there's something more that you're looking forward to than just getting to Friday to then have the weekend to then feel the dread, and breaks that cycle.
And you have a golden retriever, boy or a girl?
I do not. I do not. No,
Oh,
I'm just the type that has to
oh,
pet
you
every
just,
single dog that I see.
okay. Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, golden retriever enthusiast. Yep. Just because I ask, there's a big spiritual side to animals as well. And so it wasn't until I got my cat, whose name is Max, who I've locked out of this session because otherwise he'd be all over the computer. And getting a cat really fast-tracked and opened my career currently, because my cat, it's really interesting to see, my cat actually recognizes guests on the podcast and
Yeah.
clients in client sessions. And I've even had, because I do past life regression sessions, I've even had people say, and it's on the podcast, oh, I know Max. I know Max from a past life.
Wow.
Like, he was my cat. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So for me, I was just like, I want to get my kids a cat for Christmas, because we finally had bought my own house, a townhouse, and I'd been divorced for 10 years at the time. And we had a dog that we shared custody of, and he eventually went up to the rural property where my ex-husband and his wife live. And so there was that gap in our life. So we had a Labrador, a black Labrador. And I was like, oh, this townhouse is small. The Labrador's unwell. He's gone up to the farm. It's not a farm, the rural property. So there's a hole in our life. And so I bought the cat for the kids. And it was turned out to be my cat. I needed the cat. And the cat, I talk about multiple benefits of the cat, but one of them is what I call purr therapy. And the vibrations of the cat, if you feel anxious, and you have a cat or a dog, but definitely with a cat, the cat will go sit down on that location where your anxiety is the most and purr right there. And that vibration will help with the anxiety. It helps move it away. It's really quite interesting. And I've seen it on occasion. I've had a hypnotherapy session in here in my office, and the cat actually will jump upon the client and sit down, because when we do hypnotherapy, we do find sometimes that the emotion is still stored in the body, and the cat will sit on that exact location and provide purr therapy as they are going through a bad moment in time, a moment that they classify as stressful or fearful. They'll go through that moment, maybe cry, and exactly the moment when they've cleared that emotion, the cat will walk away. It's like, yeah, so it's really fascinating how cats can help you move emotions, and same with dogs. They do know that patting a dog or a cat or any kind of animal releases oxytocin and helps you feel less stress. For me, it was a dual benefit because it opened up a whole new side of the world that I could see, because my cat can see spiritual entities. So that was how I tuned into being able to see the archangels. It was how I learned to see ghosts and negative thought forms. And I've learned a lot about myself. And I'd never thought I was an overly animal friendly person. Like, it was just like, oh yeah, we grew up with cats. My husband at the time, he had a dog, and they were like a sideline to my life. But then when I got Max, it opened up whole new conversations on podcasts and past life regression sessions. I learned to use the cat for my own anxiety and therapy. And then I'm like, oh, and I also have many memories with animals in other lifetimes. So it was like, just like opening a window or a door to another world that, as you said, can open new creativity. And I haven't fully tapped into it yet. Opportunities there if I want to maybe write about it or whatever, but you don't know until you sit down and you think, what's this animal helping me with? And why do I have this urge to have an animal? Why do I read the books about animals? Why am I drawn to books on animals? What role can they help me in my life? And am I supposed to be, well, no, you mightn't be supposed to be the obvious dog washer or a vet or whatever, but there might be a secondary layer to why you're attracted to animals and how they can help you and how they can help others. So yeah, that's an interesting insight there, and how you've always been drawn towards animals. Are you going to get an animal in the future?
I would say that by myself, I travel a lot, so it doesn't totally jive, but with a partner, I'm totally open to it. I also would share that long term, I want to do retreats. And so I feel very called to do a retreat combined with dogs in some kind of way. I'm excited to explore that down the road.
Yeah, I haven't been to them. It's become big here in Australia. Puppy and goat yoga. Do you have that over there?
I don't think I've heard of puppy, but I mean, I can't believe actually I haven't, but the goat, definitely I've heard of the goat stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, animals are coming in everywhere. And as you said, opens up your weekend, gives you another purpose, something else to look forward to, rather than the old sit in front of the TV and have a glass of wine or a beer for the weekend.
Yeah, and like think about too for your listeners, it could be 52,000 different things. You could have liked woodworking when you were younger or just in a previous job, right? And like you add that back to your mix and now you're feeling much more fulfilled. Or you like to paint and you have given that up for the last X amount of years and now you're incorporating that back. We read about all the routines and here's the 62 things you have to do in your morning before you check your phone. But just think about it a different way and just think about what like single thing could you do on a weekend that would give you more energy and more so than let's just pop on Netflix and a bottle of popcorn or bottle of wine and some popcorn or whatever. There's just so many more ways like to be productive, and it doesn't mean that you have to make it into a business. You can just do art and nobody has to ever see it, but it's fulfilling to you because it's something that gives you peace.
And I think that's an important point there too, because we so often think, well, yeah, I could start that, but I've got to be good at it. Like, I need to paint something that I can post on Facebook to show my friends. No, you don't. You can just paint for the heck of it, right?
Right.
And especially if you're a very goal-orientated person or very achievement-orientated. I struggle with that myself. Is a hobby. Okay, Katische, what hobby would you like to do? And I'm immediately like, right, I want to be excellent at it. Oh, well, you can be bad at it. You can fail at it. It's all right. It's like that. You need that permission slip. You have permission to be really shitty at it.
I would tell you that I travel, like I just was saying, I travel a bunch. And I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've actually talked about that on social media. It's more like an internal thing. And so if we look at society at large, like people are going to places, trips because like they're Instagram worthy, right? Because like it'll
Mm,
look good, but
mm,
like it's so superficial and it's so like externally driven. And
mm,
so when I travel, like it's for me, like it fills my soul, and being able to experience different cities for the first time, like different perspectives. It doesn't mean that I need to go live there or I need to move there or I need to go there again. It could just be a one-off thing, but just that seeing new airports, new cities, trying new airlines, whatever it might be, all of that is just very exciting to me and fulfills me on a deep level. And it's just like finding out what that is for yourself. And it could have nothing to do with travel, and that's perfectly fine, and or art or animals or whatever. But finding that thing inside of you that really brings you joy, that pure kind of joy that has nothing to do externally. You're not doing it because your friend Sally or your friend Jimmy is gonna think you're super cool because you're what it doesn't none doesn't matter. It's all internal.
mm. I think one of the good things about travel is it reminds you that you could be in Spain and there's someone there who's going through the same Sunday scary as you. Like, you're all human. It's a common element, even if you speak a different language, eat different foods, dress differently. We all have the same mental processes, right?
We're all humans, like you said. We look at celebrities or influencers or people that have a bunch of followers or whatever, like we put them on this pedestal. But at the end of the day, they all put their pants on the same way. They're all humans. I wish more of us would see that. And one thing I always say too is I wish we had more compassion than judgment. We're so quick to judge everyone and everything. And if we just
Mm,
took the step back to have more compassion for the world and maybe try to see things from the other person's perspective versus just trying to put that situation from our lens, I think it could help a lot.
mm. And I think one of the difficult things about that is that it's hard to be compassionate to somebody else if you judge yourself all the time, right?
That's good.
Yeah, I have a very strong inner critic. And one of the things that I'm always talking to people about is stop judging. And then I'm like, could you just take the narrative inside for a little while and stop judging yourself? Giving yourself that internal hug, or I've learned to talk to myself in a sort of internal narrative that says, it's okay. You're all right, sweetheart. Give yourself a hug. You're going to be fine. You're doing well today. It's fine if you do that dishwasher cycle twice. You don't, doesn't matter. So that self-compassion journey, and that's where, like when I first started back in 2020, looking at a lot of spiritual stuff, I was reading a lot about self-compassion. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Whatever, that's just so shallow. But I've realized through doing the work on myself and exploring who I am, it's really very, very deep self-compassion, because that's what the mind is filtering, isn't it? It's all the things that you judge yourself on that give you anxiety, because you've got this great big screen in front of you that says, I need to have 54 masks that
Mhm.
can be projected out there so people don't see the real me, because I'm afraid that the real me would be unacceptable to them. But actually, it's usually a really great big breath of fresh air when we see the authentic version of a person, because we're like, there we go, that's a real human being. They're not pretending to be anybody. What you
Yeah.
see is what you get.
Yeah, I had this thought come to me yesterday. As I was walking the beach, and it was me being me and you being you. And what I mean by that is, from a relationship standpoint, the best relationships, in my opinion, are when I'm just being me and the other person is just being them. And
Yeah.
there's an effortless flow. It's
Mm,
natural. There's no awkward silence. Maybe we don't talk for X amount of minutes, but that doesn't matter because we're just in that like same energetic space that is comforting, and we're seeing and hearing and valuing the other person for exactly who they are. Like that to me is the ultimate, versus the societal nature of everything is being judged 24/7 and we're wearing all these masks. And so it's like we've gotten further and further away from just the genuine, authentic nature of human connection.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I noticed that on LinkedIn, for example, you post a lot of beach images for people just to take a moment and to switch out and to just take a pause, because you can go onto social media for work and just go, "Ugh, how do I need to interact? Click like, yes, read that article, right, share that, post my own." So yours is a breath of fresh air in that, come have a look at CT's feed and it's like beach. Ah, I can hear the sounds. I can see the waves. Do you know what I mean? And it's linked into just caring for yourself and being compassionate for yourself and saying, you know what? You've been doing stuff for 45 minutes on LinkedIn. Now just stop for
Yeah.
2 and give yourself permission to breathe. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I'm trying to break that scrolling cycle where we're all just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, tapping and swiping and all that stuff, regardless of what platform you're on. The goal for that company is to keep you on the app. And so trying to, in those posts that you're referencing, I've tagged them all as with the hashtag SPX now. And that's let's be here right now. Let's reset, let's pause and reset. And so just, hey, 7 seconds, your mind is crazy. You have to do nothing. You don't have to do anything right now. Just be here now, that kind of thing, to really try to break up the cycle that everybody is in and the same kind of content that everybody's seeing. And then you're comparing yourself that, oh, this person just put out all these videos. Oh my gosh, I need to start doing videos. Oh, they have so many followers. Oh, I'm behind, even though you're doing this amazing, you have this amazing business or you have this amazing career on paper, but you're still like, we're all just comparing. And then the line is, we're comparing our own lives to everybody's highlight reels. And so just always remind yourself of that when you're on social, because it's not it's not apples to apples.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing, like I have people who are friends who work from home and their companies monitor their computer. And so every time their hands are not on the keyboard, it logs it as an inactive moment when they take a toilet break or whatever. At least if they're on LinkedIn and they watch your post, they can go, here's 7 seconds to myself. And I deserve it because I need mental refreshment and I need to be cognitively in tune with my work. So 7 seconds, the computer can clog that I'm on LinkedIn and I'm doing something, but at least I'm being compassionate and going, my brain needs a break. It's a bit tired now. So, that is helpful as well. And do you use the beach a lot? You live near the beach. You're in Florida, you said.
Yeah, I live near the beach and I moved here a couple of years ago just based on intuition. If I feel called to the water, I feel like I was called to the water many years prior, but it just worked its way out at that particular time. But I was very intentional to live somewhere that I could make that a daily or weekly habit. And to be honest with you, I now feel even more purpose with it because to create that content. I think that might be why. Because I'll tell you that before I moved here, the thought was I was going to find my future wife and 3 best friends in the first 3 days of moving here, and that never transpired. So I'm still searching for her. And so maybe this is the reasoning why I was moving here, to be close to the beach and helping people to reset.
You never know. You may end up getting that dog and you may end up stumbling over here on the beach when you're walking the dog. They do say that dogs are female magnets, so maybe the dog's going to come first. So is there anything else that you would like to invite people to do? I know that you have got a weekly newsletter called Soulful Sundays.
Yes, I would love for any of the listeners or people watching out there, if anything that we talked about resonates, love to have you on board. Yeah, it's called the Soulful Sundays, and that's your weekly reset and pause. You may not be on LinkedIn or may not be active on there, so it's a good way to just stay in tune with what I have going on. I'm always just trying to help people to live more mindfully and just simple ways to do that. The feedback that I've gotten has been great. And it's all, people are always talking about just like it's simple, it's accessible. It doesn't matter what kind of job or career I'm doing or I'm retired, whatever. I always tell people I could work somebody that's 25, the same as somebody that's 75. Like it doesn't, age is just a number in that way. It's agnostic. I've enjoyed putting it out there, and then LinkedIn as well. I can give you some links to put in the show notes, but I'm very active on LinkedIn and looking to continue to grow that as time goes on. But if you want to check out anything else, the mindfulspx.com is the best spot. Bunch of resources there as well. And I can sign up for the newsletter right there, top right corner.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And for people who are wondering, his newsletter has an open rate of 90%, and the industry standard for a newsletter is about 30 or less. So obviously there's some good content in there, because it's hard to get people to open newsletters. That's why I don't have one. I used to have a newsletter, and I would get there, oh yeah, you've got a 30% open rate. That's great. That's industry standard. And I'm like, I'm doing what for 30% of these people to open it? And I gave it away. So if you're getting a 90% open rate, there must be some good content in there. So well done.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to having a chat again sometime in the future.